I saw this peculiar looking knitting machine on Amazon the other day. And while I know what to expect from these brandless knitting tools by now, the prospect of being able to machine knit on the couch was too enticing to pass up. So against my better judgment, I purchased this thing with my own money. And you get an unboxing. First off, the AI-generated gobbledygook on the box did not disappoint. So let's together play a wool and open her up. Chuck the manual and check out all this yarn it comes with. The yarn that comes with these knitting machines always kind of baffles me. It's always very plasticky feeling, more so than any acrylic yarn you'd encounter in the wild. It's usually slightly stretchy with a slick feeling, which is maybe not so nice to wear, but usually pretty good in the circular knitting machines. So I like to use them as scrap yarn to cast on and bind off with. So this thing comes in a few pieces and comes with a crochet hook that's actually not that bad. But while I was checking out the crank mechanism, I was shocked to discover it's broken. Like, would it have killed them to pack it with a tiny piece of foam to support this obviously weak point in the crank? But I wanted to make this video, gosh darn it, and I didn't want to wait for the return process, so crazy glue to the rescue. While that's drying, let's check out the loom. It has that familiar AliExpress design that works so well when done right. It comes with these little front legs that don't really pop on. And I can feel that the gears inside aren't exactly gliding smoothly. So I like to lubricate these machines a bit. I'm out of WD-40, but mineral oil is the main ingredient in this lice treatment. So I'm just gonna use a couple of drops of that. Don't freak out. There's no pesticides in lice treatment anymore because I guess they're all super lice now and immune to all pesticides. So if you've got a young kid, you know. Now that my machine is all lubed up and deloused and my broken crank is dry, let's finally assemble this cursed thing. So the loom and the crank fit together like so. And the little back foot pops on. Moment of truth. It cranks! And while I was about to add yarn, I realized what these little levers on the side do. So they actually snap in place to hold the loom. So that makes me feel a little bit better. It's not going to go flying across the room if something goes wrong. And once you get going, you'll add your yarn to these tensioners like so. But I'm going to go ahead and cast on and do a little swatch with the yarn that came with the machine. If you'd like a tutorial for how to cast on these machines, I'll link some below. In this video, I'm just trying it out to see what I can get out of this little guy with my above average circular knitting machine skills. So it's working, ostensibly. It sounds terrible. But I knit up all of one of those little yarn balls, and it didn't drop or tuck any stitches. There are quite a few tension issues in the swatch, but I've seen that happen before with other machines when you first use them. I was interested to see if the tension issues would continue because that's one thing that I thought could happen. Since one hand is cranking and one hand is holding the machine, you can't hand tension the yarn, so you're 100% reliant on built-in tensioners. Now I'm casting on with some scrap yarn, and I am so determined to actually make something with this machine. I should add the glue failed on the crank, and I had to glue it again. I felt like this machine was fighting me every step of the way, but I persevered, and I did get my glorious moment of machine knitting on the couch, which made the struggle kind of worth it. Using a light worsted weight yarn from my stash, I did start to get many dropped and tucked stitches. And as any machine knitter would know, adding weight to your project often helps. But every time I tried, that actually made the problem worse. But did I mention I was determined to make something, so I kept at it. And before long, I realized what one big problem was. A few of these needles were not perfectly smooth, so the yarn was not gliding over them properly. It's such a shame, because a handheld knitting machine that does more than I-cords is a super cool idea in theory. I just wish someone more serious would make one that doesn't suck. Well, I kept at it and I made a gnarled 25-inch long tube, and I thought just tying it in a bow might help hide some of its imperfections. So I followed some bow tying tutorials on YouTube, and with a little 3-needle bind-off action, I removed my waste yarn and finished off the tails of my new jumbo knit bow. Then I sewed a little hair comb to the back of it. I think attaching a giant barrette would work just as well. And just like that, I can say a small chunk of plastic did not defeat me. Well, they did get my $30, but they did not get my pride. So, I don't know what the moral of this story is. If you see this machine on clearance for $5, maybe give it a go. Otherwise, do not spend your hard-earned money on this. As much as I hated using it, I loved machine knitting on the couch so much. If Addy came out with a handheld Addy Express tomorrow, I would be running to buy it, even if it was $100. I guess I'm just sick of these circular knitting machines getting treated like toys. We are real operators, fabricators. Like Etsy exists, craft fairs exist. Let's give the craft girlies some real tools. And they do not have to be pink, they just gotta work. Alrighty. I hope you enjoyed this struggle bus video. See you next time. Bye!
I like jelly beans.
You like jelly beans?
What happened?